Greetings, fine friends. This is the Reading Instruction Show. I am your host, Dr. Andy Johnson. Today we are looking at recognizing words and three sources of information. But it starts with understanding what in the dickens reading is. Reading is not sounding out words, it's not identifying words, it's not recognizing or decoding words. Reading is creating meaning with print, meaning, understanding. Without understanding, you're not reading, you're just a mouse responding to stimuli. For example, read that. You could sound it out, and notice, I'm guessing you'd sound it out something like this, lectio significationem. You would sound very much like a struggling reader reading word by word, very choppy. You're sounding out words, but you're not reading. That's what reading is, creating meaning with print. If you're not creating meaning, you're not reading, you're responding to stimuli. Now, in the world of reading, we use what's in our head to create meaning. It interacts with. That helps us understand what we read and perceive reality as well. We use what's in our head. For example, that picture there, we see a dog, but it is just a random series of dots. We create meaning and we put order to it. That's what the brain naturally does. We use what's in our head to make sense of incoming stimuli to fill in the blanks. It would be very inefficient to try to capture and record reality like a camera. For example, context matters. We use context. The shape there, the cat, it's an H there and an A there. What's in our head? Context matters. We see this, our eyes go 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, but we see it here as ABC. The shape is the same, context matters, meaning. Recognizing words is one part of reading. Recognizing words is when you encounter a word while you're reading and you automatically know what it is. That's called recognizing a word. It's different from identifying a word. Identifying a word is you see a word, it's in your lexicon, you don't automatically recognize it, so you need to use some strategy. But we're talking about recognizing words, and our brain uses three systems to recognize words. These are interactive and interdependent systems. They work together. Now, one of the things that helps us understand this is what's called priming experiments. Knowledge enhances our ability to perceive stimuli, recognize patterns, and predict and fill in the blanks. Now, this is an example of a priming study, but it's done with non-word things, and this will help us understand. We could prime a group with mouse sorts of things. That's called priming stimuli. And in this picture, there you would be more likely to see a mouse. I could prime another group with bald man things, and in this same picture, you would be more likely to see a bald man. There's glasses in the nose, he's kind of looking up, all right? Context matters, what's in the head matters. Priming is simply putting things into head to see if it makes a difference, and it does there. So during reading, we use the knowledge stored in our cortex, and we're constantly reaching out and making these micro predictions before we get there to see what the words are. That's called recognizing words. These micro predictions, we don't sound out every word. These micro predictions enable our brain to work more efficiently. And our brain uses multiple sources of information to make these micro predictions, to recognize words during the act of reading. Now, the three cueing systems, before you get all worked up about that, it's merely developing what the brain naturally does. Our brain naturally predicts, tries to create order out of disorder. what the brain naturally does to enable it to better recognize words and better create meaning. 3Qing is not a skill that you teach students. It's not a teaching strategy. It's not an approach to teaching reading, and it does include phonics. If you are against the 3Qing system, you should at the very least know know something about that which you are against. Basic level. So we use the semantic cueing system. Semantic means meaning, context, and this works with the other two systems. Let me give you an example. I could put these words up there, and you probably could offer a definition, but it wouldn't be correct because light means something different in the context of a sentence. The same with milk. Milk means something different, and run means something different. Okay? Now I can put these words up there and select someone at random, and they could tell me what these words mean because you would be able to use the context of the sentence. I would like some more coffee. Would you splammer some coffee in my cup? Okay. He drank too much vodka, got sick, and it pascapated all over the floor. It was really gross. Okay, kind of know what that is. Sally wanted to know how heavy the pig was, so she put it on the scale and a grunts passed it. Okay, we use context to figure out the words, to recognize words. That's one example. Meaning does not reside in the word alone. And we never ever encountered single words floating in space, except on a Dibbles test. Words are always found in the context of a sign, a sentence, a product, or an experience. So reading lists of words out of context, like a Dibbles test, is not a valid measure of anything other than one's ununderstanding of reading. So examining words in isolation. Yes, we should do some of that, but it should be just a very small part of reading because we disallow the ability to use context, which is a powerful tool in recognizing words. Syntax grammar. Okay, we know it's a verb. She did something down the hill. Fish do something. It's a noun. It's an adjective. Let me show you an example. 'Twas brillig and the slithy toves did geary and gimble in the wabbie. All mimsy were the burrow gobies, and the mome wrath out grabby. Okay, that does not make sense, you say? We see that picture, okay. It gives us a sense it could be a monster, but using just syntax, we know 9 things here. It's about a creature or creatures. They did something. They did this in a place. There was a second thing. There were more than one of the second thing. The second thing was something. There was a third thing. There was only one of the third thing. The third thing did something. So we get a lot of information from syntax as well. So semantics, the semantic cueing system, the syntactical cueing system, and the last one is phonics or the graphophonetic. Now this is the least efficient in terms of cognitive process, time, and space. Working memory has a limited capacity. We can hold 7 plus or minus 2 bits of information in short-term memory, working memory, for about 15 seconds, and then it begins to fade. You could hold 7 letters, 7 words, or 7 ideas. Which one is going to be more effective for meaning? Meaning that if we're processing letter by letter, we have a harder time hanging on to the ideas. So if we're processing words, reading not for surface structure, but for deep meaning, that's a more effective way to create meaning rather than simply looking at surface structure. In that sentence, that Latin sentence I showed you before, you were sounding out words. That was surface structure. So, do we really look at every letter when we sound out words? Do you really think so? Well, let's give an example. Let's say I'm encountering this word in text and I sound it out word by word. I'd go something like this. S, st, 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 st. Sta, sta, sta. Stam? What's a stam? Stam. Oh, stamp. This is about a stamp. Yes, of course. Wait a minute. Stampy? I don't know what a stampy is. What's a stampy? Stamped. Oh, that makes sense. Stamped. He stamped on something. Yeah, or it was stamped. Yeah, that makes for. Oh, wait a minute. Stampede. Oh, that's totally different. Do you really think you do this in the microseconds available to you as you're recognizing words? That would be kooky, wouldn't it? Absolutely. We see words holistically within the context of the sentence. One acts as a primer. The buffalo started to stampede. The word buffalo we associate with stampede, so that helps us understand. We see the word stampede not as a series of letters, but in the context of the sentence. And notice how your eyes, buffalo started to stampede, you kind of just hit the first two letters, versus when you see it uh, uh, out of context, your eyeball, your movement is different. You tend to go like this versus. All right, this has been a short explanation of how we use three sources of information, or the three cueing systems.